Okay, folks, I keep hearing some kind of loud drums from the basement. I don't know what it is, but it's coming from my utility room, and I've got to find out what the source is. Some kind of loud banging, shaking, somewhere. Oh my gosh, it's coming from here. What the heck is in this box? All right, now I found this box when I was cleaning out this room. Check out that video when I was reorganizing this. But I mean, it was just this weird locked box. I have no idea what the combination could be, but I mean, it's three numbers on either side. Would the what would the chances of it be? Something demonic like 666 or something. Oh my god. Why do I have the feeling this is going to end up just like Jumanji? Why am I even tempting fate like this? Oh, good lord, what could possibly be in here? All right, here we go. Okay, interesting. All right, so folks, what we have inside of this box is a game that I had put together a while ago and just have not yet gotten around to doing any videos of. So inside this box are a couple things that just any typical kind of role-playing type game might need. And first of all, we have a pad of paper and some pens. How nice is that? We also have a very handy metallic dice games dice tray. I love these dice trays. They're like, that leather or faux leather on the back. Very nice, soft, like velvety felt or whatever on the front. And then they have these very nice quality snaps. And it just looks good, right? All right, and then we have a dice bag full of a bunch of various little odds and ends that we'll look at in just a second. And then, of course, we have a couple boxes of miniatures, fully pre-painted figures from a couple different manufacturers. And we'll go through those as well in just a second. And then, for this specific dungeon crawl, we have an assortment of Pathfinder flip tiles. These are from a couple different sets, and I just used this box to store them all in. There's some customization done to these as well. Then we also have two sets of rules. Oh, by the way, this game is called Eternia's End. Now, before I hear all of the He-Man comments, I'll be honest, I've never seen He-Man. I had no idea the world that he's from or whatever was called Eternia. So when I was first posting about this on Facebook months ago or whenever it was that I came up with this, I just thought Eternia's End sounded cool. And someone's like, oh, you're a He-Man fan? I'm like, what? I haven't gotten around to changing it yet, but all right, so a couple of rule handouts for players, and then the main rule book is right here. All right, so that's everything in the box. All right, so when you're opening the rules, what do you find? Well, first of all, as I like to do, a nice laminated player reference sheet. Specifically, this one includes tables that you'll need to roll on throughout the game. For example, enchanted items, traps, events, and what you do when you're discovering a new dungeon tile, and how to populate it with monsters or what have you. Then the rules itself, they're not very lengthy, but I wrote quite a narrative introduction that was basically 2 full pages long. So the rules themselves are only about 4.5 pages, pretty simple. And then on the very back, don't read this. This is the win-loss epilogues, depending on what happens to you. All right, let's just briefly go through the rules and how they're kind of laid out. We have what the objective is, obviously, the setup, how you're going to be assembling the dungeon deck of tiles, essentially, and then how a hero phase works, how a dungeon phase works. Heroes all activate, then monsters in their own dungeon phase, how movement works, line of sight, combat, when you're inhabiting a tile with traps or monsters, what the various tokens do, what the various items that you might find do, and that is that pretty much for the rules. Now, in addition to the rules in this binder are some errata that I have not yet gotten around to putting into the rules themselves. Things specifically for tile placement, character abilities, a couple tidbits of errata on those, a couple item things, and some setup clarification. So in here's just a bunch of notebook paper to write notes or whatever. And then some graph paper. I'm honestly not sure. I can't remember my original intention for what this graph paper was for, because, you know, you lay out the tiles that have a grid on it already, so I'm not entirely sure what that was for. We'll go through these in a second. Absolutely love these. And then in the back, I always keep all the previous versions and rough drafts of the rules with my rules for every game I design, because I like looking back to see how my games have developed over time. In this little pouch here are some of my original notes and things when I was first kind of spitballing the idea for the game. In this little pocket here are some magic templates. So when you are casting a spell, you might stick this somewhere out there centered on the center here, and then it'll affect everyone under that template, or this straight line template starting from the caster and affects everyone that far out. So just a couple of those little things. And then here is my favorite part of this game. And it's such a shame I've had this boxed up. I can't even remember how long ago it was I came up with this. This game has not yet been played. I could absolutely give it a shot myself. It is very soloable. But of course, you know what happened around the world recently, that I haven't gotten around to playing this with actual living people. But I came up with character cards. So here are some hero cards, and then also some stat cards for monsters. So you can be a paladin, a warrior, an assassin, a hunter, a rogue, and a wizard. They all have varying stats, including attack, armor, defense, speed, range, and health. And then they all have some kind of special ability. So, for example, and I love that I took these little pictures of the miniatures you use themselves, which, I don't know, to me, they just look absolutely fantastic. I don't think I've done this with any other game. But anyway, so for the Paladin, special ability, Paladin's Oath, can be targeted by a monster's attack in place of an adjacent hero. The Paladin has a fantastic defense and armor value, so if you wanted to, you know, run the wizard up ahead, stick the Paladin next to him and he'll absorb some of the shots. Then the Warrior, special ability, Enraged, plus 1d6 to attack and defense rolls when at half or lower of max health. That's that kind of classic berserk mentality where you're half or less health and you are just going all out. And then we have the Assassin, stealth, unable to be targeted by ranged attacks. That's pretty freaking cool. And does not have to break away to move out of adjacency with monsters. Typically, if you are adjacent to an opponent and you want to move out of that adjacency, you have to try to break away, a die roll off. Well, not for the Assassin. That's actually pretty sweet. The Hunter special ability is Sharpshoot. Hunter's ranged attacks are unaffected by the moving and shooting penalty. So if you move and then shoot in the same turn, typically your shot has a penalty, but not if you're a fantastic bowman like the archer. And also, opposing figures do not block line of sight. That just shows how good the hunter is at sharpshooting. So typically, you know, an opposing figure standing in the way of someone you'd want to shoot blocks line of sight. Well, not for the hunter. And then additionally, shots fired at close range receive an extra attack bonus. So that's pretty cool. The rogue has all sorts of text. Rogue's tricks. Trapped tiles discovered by an exploring rogue are automatically disarmed, and you don't even roll for what kind of trap it would have been. Or if a tile was discovered not by a rogue trying to disarm such a trap will do so with a bonus, and at the cost of an action, rogues can lay trap tokens that monsters can fall into themselves. So that's kind of cool. And then lastly is the wizard. And of course, the wizard's special ability is simply that they can cast spells. Both offensive and defensive spells have templates, and there are a couple of offensive spells there as well as defensive spells, and that is the wizard. So those are all the heroes and their special abilities. And then, oh, that's right, we have the monsters. And again, I put pictures of all of them. So you have goblins, melee and range goblins, melee and range kobolds. You have a skeletal swordsman, a skeletal hound, a skeletal spearman, a skeletal archer. So there's very detailed stats for each of them. And then just simply an orc, a bugbear, and the final boss, Devanova. Now, the thing that I absolutely love about these monsters is that it's not just, okay, I'm fighting a goblin. It's, okay, what kind of goblin am I fighting? Because they have different stats, but also when it's time for the monsters to attack, they have an AI. At the bottom of all the monster cards, it'll tell you what their activation is. So when this goblin's turn comes up, its activation is, well, you do what you do from left to right. So it'll attack adjacent hero. If there is no adjacent hero, it'll move toward the nearest hero, and of course, up to its speed value. But in addition, they have different attacks. So you're not entirely sure, you can't fully prepare for what may happen to you, because this goblin could either attack you with a slash. Roll a d6, 1 to 3, it'll slash you, which is 4d6. Or, if you roll a 4 through 6, it'll be a poison dagger, which is a 4d6 plus a d4. You'll notice in the special ability section, it has another ability. So it has what's called Horde, plus 1d6 attack and defense when outnumbering. So if there are multiple goblins, which typically spawn in groups of more than one, when outnumbering someone in melee, they get that Horde special ability. And then if you read the note, it kind of clarifies what the poison dagger exactly is. It's a d4, and in the errata, if you saw earlier, the poison dagger was clarified that if the poison dagger's d4 rolls a 4, it technically hits. The target becomes poisoned, and that's -1 health point at the end of each turn, which is poison's cured when the goblin's killed or when using a health potion. And then the ranged goblin has special abilities and has a couple different attack types. Just a typical goblin bow or rapid fire, 3d6 times 2. And then again, if you read the note section, it mentions that rapid fire targets the 2 closest heroes within range or twice against a single hero. Then kobolds, they have different attacks, different abilities for both melee and range. Then we have all the different kinds of skeletons. So we have the skeletal swordsman with a variety of different abilities and attacks, the skeletal hound, again with different attacks and abilities, same with the spearman and the archer. Then the bugbear has 3 different types of attacks it might, the orc has 3 different types of attacks it might do. 1 to 3 is a battle axe, 6d6. Or 4 to 5 is 4d6 and -1 armor to whoever it's targeting. And then if you roll a 6, bestial fury, 66, and the target suffers a -1 defense die penalty. Plus, it has other special abilities and whatnot. Bugbears also have 3 different attacks of varying severity. And then the boss just has unbelievable stats and special abilities, which I actually think are fantastic. So, for example, its special ability, Eliminate Moon, if there is still a monster in play anywhere in the dungeon other than the Devanova, the boss itself, by the end of the dungeon phase, and Devanova is not at full health, the monster is removed from play and Devanova is healed by 1d4 wounds. As if, the final boss of the dungeon just sucked sucks the soul out of a still living monster somewhere in the dungeon to kind of heal itself. Oh, I just love it. So that is the whole deck of various monster cards you might run into. So I just love it. I love the pictures on the cards. I love all the different kinds of stats and how the monsters have different attacks and special abilities. So that was everything that was inside the rule binder itself. And then let's take a look at some close-ups of some of the figures. So these are mostly WizKids figures, but also some pre-painted Roll for Initiative figures for the heroes and skeletons, but the orcs and Devanova are WizKids. The bugbears, kobolds, goblins are all WizKids. These containers are from the Container Store, by the way. Absolutely love them. Here are the flip tiles, the Pathfinder flip tiles that I'm using. As it said in the rules, I don't know if I mentioned it or if you caught it. Here's how the dungeon deck looks. There's a little flap here to separate these out. These are all just blank. In the rules it says you use side A for all of them. And these are just different corridors and passageways. And you add as many of those as you want to the dungeon deck, depending on how long of a delve you want. And then these original tiles, this is the entrance tile from the forest into the dungeon. This is the throne room tile, so when Devanova, the final boss, is summoned, you'll lay that one down. And then we have 3 different stickered stars here. So all these gold stars are treasure tiles, so a treasure will be placed somewhere on the tile. And I love that these tiles are 6 inches wide, 6 inches high, perfect square, 6 by 6, because that way you can roll to determine where a monster is spawned, where a treasure is placed. Because, for example, on this tile, all right, so let's do columns first. So roll a d6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we rolled a 6, so it'll be in the 6th column. 2 spaces there, so we'll do 1 to 3 this one, 4 to 6 this one, roll that. Okay, it's also a 6. All right, so whatever we just tried rolling to spawn will be right there. So that's fantastic. And you use all 6 of the treasure tiles. Then the red stars are trapped tiles. You can include as many of those as you want or don't want. And then the green stars are nothing. No monsters, no traps, but also no treasure. And you'll put as many of those in there as you want. Now, why might you not want to put so many of those green ones in there? Because one of the rules of the game, which is perfect for keeping the game flowing and, really pushing adventurers to explore, is if there's ever a time where there are no monsters present in the dungeon, when the dungeon phase begins, an event happens. You roll on the event table, and I believe all 6 possible events are bad. So it really presses the adventurers to keep it moving, keep spawning new monsters, keep spawning new tiles, and otherwise you will run into a potentially harsh event. So that's all these tiles, and you'll kind of mix them up, flip them upside down, and pull them one at a time. And then I guess the last thing to show are all of what's in this bag here. I love this dice bag. It's a Steve Jackson Games dice bag. But I have definitely way more things than dice in here. We have all sorts of little tokens and tools. So all the heroes will keep track of their health using these Litco wound dials. Litco wound dials are magnetic. I don't know how well you can see that in here. And so you just spin down the life, and I have a whole bunch of those for the different heroes. Here's a line of sight laser pointer, which is fantastic. What brand is this anyway? Maybe Army Painter or something like that. So that just helps you when determining line of sight for ranged attacks. And then look at these dice. Oh my gosh, look at these. These are Chessex dice, but oh my gosh, I don't know if the camera's picking up just how different many colors are swirled in there. Love those. And then these, similarly, are freaking gorgeous. Look at those. Oh, man. So a couple different kinds of 6-sided dice. A whole bunch of little ones and then some bigger ones. And then, of course, polyhedrals. These are also chessics, kind of blue swirled with gold numbers. And then these are from... Who is this from? Gatekeeper Games. I love this like tower that they come in. And these are like silver granite with silver numbers. Then some little tokens here, some green tokens to show when a figure or hero's poisoned. Then here are these treasure chests that came with the WizKids pre-painted barracks set. So there's 8 of those, one for each of the 8 treasure tiles. The cool thing about these is that they open up. They have lids that stay on there. And why? Because here are the little tiny D6 dice, and you'll randomly put these dice in two of these dice in each treasure chest and mix them up. You'll never know. So you're literally opening the treasure chest when you find it on a tile to find out what items you get, and the different items are different colored dice. Let's see if in these rules we have what it is. Okay, so here we go. So clear of those little tiny D6 dice are called Foss Arcane Spirit. Now, in order to summon Devanova at the end or toward the end of the game, you need to roll any clear dice you've managed to accumulate, and an 18 plus, you summon Devanova. So obviously the minimum number of those clear D6 you'll have to have found would be 3, but good luck rolling 3 6s. So the more of those clear dice you find, the better chance you'll have to summon the final boss, and that's how the game ends, when you beat him or he beats you. Or, of course, the heroes may have died before they got to him. So that's the clear dice, but then the green little mini dice are health potions. So literally you find these little dice in the treasure chest, and then you'll roll them when you decide to use it, and you'll literally have the little green health potion die. Okay, I need to use the health potion. All right, roll it at some point, and then you'll heal that many wounds. Red are extra dice for attacks. Yellows, extra movement points for speed. Blue are an enchanted item. So when you roll the blue enchanted item die, you'll check this table to see what enchanted item you got. So I just love the idea of actually having a physical little treasure chest with these little mini dice in there that you'll find, and then you can keep those little dice and roll them to do their effect at some point later in the game. All right, folks, I hope you found this interesting. I just thought it would be kind of neat to take a peek at just another one of these little game designs that hopefully I'll get to the table, maybe even solo if I have to, but that is, for now, called Eternia's End. All right, folks, thank you all so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it, and until next time.